Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Gateway Tailgate Podcast. For this week, I am your host, Adam Freeman. This is Kenny Hutton. And as usual for us, we're back to a two-man group. We can never stay consistent. We're consistently inconsistent. Wouldn't you say so, Kenny?
There you go. I mean, I think it's a great way to describe us.
Got a lot going on in St. Louis sports. Despite what our Twitter shows for the past 2 days of being quiet, our interns were out of town for the weekend. So it was pretty lackluster. There was a lot going on. We're going to get to it on this week's podcast. But first, this week in St. Louis sports history, one of the biggest things that I could find, Bill White was traded to the Cardinals from the Phillies for Sam Jones and Don, I'm going to go with Choate, Choate. I apologize for butchering the name. It wasn't a hockey name, and I do terrible outside of that. Bill White had a pretty impressive career with Cardinals, Kenny. He was a 5-time All-Star. He was a 6-time Gold Glove winner. He had 6 20-home run seasons, 300 RBI seasons, and he won the 1964 World Series with the Cardinals. After his baseball career, he became a broadcaster. After a broadcaster in 1989, he was actually named president of the National League, becoming the highest-ranking African American in sports history.
That's pretty sweet.
That's what I thought.
What
do you got for this week?
It's not relevant maybe to St. Louis, but I would assume it is. 1991, Scotty Bowman is elected to the NHL Hall of Fame as a builder while he's still actively coaching. I believe he was with the Penguins at the time. I'm going to assume that's part of his role in bringing up the game in St. Louis. And if not, I'm just going to say it is because he was the first coach of your St. Louis Blues.
I'll give it to you. First coach. That's legit. It's kind of like Bradley Carnell with St. Louis City. He's going to go down in St. Louis City history. So, that's part of it.
Yeah, he is.
Let's go. All right, let's rip off this Band-Aid. The horrible pain is going to start first. We're going to start with the negatives and lead into the positives and then into the unknowns. First thing on our agenda this week, Kenny, Mizzou basketball had a rough weekend.
I don't want to talk about it. Next topic.
I'm not here to talk about the past.
Everything we said that Mizzou would have had to do to win, I believe Texas Tech just did to Drake. They played fast. They played their game. They didn't let Drake control the ball. And Mizzou let Drake control the ball. They took a lot of shot clocks down, and, man, that freshman made some shots. I don't remember his name. I'm not even going to attempt to butcher it. But he played out of his mind. I don't know if I have been let down by a team this much here recently. This was bad.
Yeah, we always joke about Georgia does Georgia things all the time. Like they seem to always have a stumble, at least until recently, the past couple of years, they've been able to cash in on a national championship in football. We always joke that Georgia does Georgia things, but now it's Mizzou does Mizzou things. We have to start admitting that. They had a great 3/4 of the season. The first 3/4 were fantastic. The last 8 games were absolutely brutal. And yeah, you're 100% right. All the stuff that we talked about last week of having to play fast, having to play big, did not come true. It just didn't work. Mizzou, another game where they shot 33% from the field, 25% from three-point. They did make it to the free throw line. They were 23 of 26 from the free throw line. They dominated the free throw line against Drake. But that was pretty much where it stopped. They had depth. We didn't play our depth. We played our 5 starters, which is fine. Play your 5 best and let's see what happens. But we were a deep squad, and we didn't play our bench. Our bench averaged 12 minutes. Drake had 8 guys play and get minutes, and they were fairly even. They had 2 guys get 40 minutes, and then the rest of their bench or the rest of their team kind of cycled through pretty evenly. We just let our 5 guys play, actually, except for Tony Perkins, who we gave so much credit to for the first, really for the season. Up until this point, he started just progressively getting better and better. In the last couple games, he had been incredible, and he played 12 minutes and had 4 turnovers.
Yeah, it was a. There's a Mizzou podcast, and they like to say hot dog water, and that's definitely what this performance was. I found it interesting the national kind of media on it. Obviously, they were pulling for Drake, it seemed, which is fine, whatever, I get it. But some of the results of it, you had sent over a tweet by Clay Travis. Quote, factoring in seeding and upsets, I think Mizzou is the most cursed NCAA tournament team of all time. 29 trips to the tourney with no Final Fours. Only BYU and Xavier have more trips without a Final Four run. Tennessee is fourth on the list. I mean, we're kind of supposed to be a basketball school. And I can't tell you anything that has happened in the aftermath because I was so mad. I think you guys could probably tell. You could notice that I wasn't replying to any text messages.
Yeah.
Um, I was sitting there stewing, and I believe I said, "Hold on, I want to find the." No, I'm not going to go back through that. The text where I said, "If Severance's finale isn't loaded up, I'm going to drink a gallon of bleach." I think was the only thing I sent after
It
like.
was.
Um, so I didn't have to drink a gallon of bleach because Severance was on. Um, but I haven't been on Power Mizzou. I can't stand the negativity.
No,
But
haven't on it, but on either.
a lot of my mind is going to, can Dennis do it?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Is so the first three-fourths of the season, they were a Sweet 16 team. They were an Elite Eight team, potentially Final Four team, up
Mm-hmm.
until the last 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
What changed from the beginning all the way until then? That was up till the Bama game. Was it that they got in their heads after beating Alabama? Was it that they switched their entire mentality on what they were doing? Caleb Grill went cold the last 8 games of the season. I
I
mean,
mean,
that's a big part of it.
he didn't just go cold. He went ice cold. He
Yeah.
was shooting at 49%, and I don't know if he made more than three threes a game on average the rest of the way. I really
I
don't.
think the game against Mississippi State was the only game that he actually was back at his average. I think every other game he was below average.
And see what happens. They won. So
Yeah.
I am trying to be optimistic and not be pessimistic because you get on Twitter the next day and a lot of Mizzou fans are really negative. Dennis isn't the
Hmm.
guy. Fire him. Find somebody. Oh, first of all, who are you going to find? I mean,
Right.
in all honesty, like
Drake's coach.
he's going to Iowa.
Yeah.
Sean Miller went to Texas, and Sean Miller already told you no once, like when we
Right.
hired Kim English or not Kim English, Kim
Kim
Anderson.
Anderson.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
don't think Kim English
I'll
is
take
the
Kim
answer.
English.
I don't think he's the answer either.
No, not right now.
So I'm wondering, and this is my state of mind has been there was a bump in the road with Eli. Everybody
Mhm.
was like, nope, he can't do it. And now he's got his guys. And I get it. They say basketball, quicker turnover. You only got 11, 12 guys, whatever. But now Dennis has two recruiting classes that are fully his. I'm 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 optimistic. I think he's got to have another year. But I bet the noose is starting to tighten. Like the leash is getting shorter. So
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't I don't see us being able to do much better in the current state of Missouri basketball. This is complete opposite than Missouri football, in my opinion. Missouri football, if for whatever reason, knock on wood, Drink leaves or gets asked to leave, whatever it is, I think Missouri football is in a much better place that we could get equal to, if not greater value, because of the NIL, because of what the team has done, because of the new facilities. All of that stuff is leading towards Mizzou being able to get better. Now, what does that really mean? I don't know. Like to me, Lane Kiffin and Eli are on the exact same wavelength, in my opinion, as far as level of coach. Exact same person. He's not leaving Ole Miss, so we're not getting somebody like that. Um, if you go on the basketball side, Mizzou is not. Yes, we should be more of a basketball school than a football school, but I don't know if we're going to get anybody better. We're not going to get like Arkansas upgraded with getting Coach Cal, and we'll get to that here in a second. We're not going to go out and get a Barnes, a Patino. We're not going to get somebody like that to come over late in their career to be able to make a massive difference. We're not going to get Pearl. I'm pretty sure that Pearl told Mizzou no at one point. Um, it's interesting. I like Coach Gates. I think he's got a lot of runway in my opinion. I'd give him at least 2 years to like let's really get things going because basketball is so much different than anything else because you can get that one guy. You can get a Michael Porter Jr. in your recruiting class. And if the guy plays, your team's gonna be lights out. Like it makes that kind of a difference. And he's got a decent set already. He's got two guys coming in. Aaron Rowe right now is the biggest one for next year, I believe. He's a 4-star. That's great. You still have guys like T.O. Barrett coming back. There's a chance that Mitchell comes back. Cruz has already said that he's coming back. I don't see this team being much worse, but also I didn't see them going from 0-18 to what 10-8 or whatever it became this year. So who knows how it could actually happen. But it is getting hotter on that seat. There's no doubt about it.
I to circle back, and this is why I'm kind of like being cautious with my like whether I want to be in the give Gates another year or 2 years or 3 years, whatever it takes, or hey, no, I'm done with him, is because I think Dennis actually doesn't get the benefit of having that first year go okay.
Hmm.
Instead, it went really well. But
Right.
if you really think about it, there was two NBA level players on it. I mean, Kobe Brown, Demoy Hodge are. I don't know if Demoy Hodge is playing as much as Kobe Brown does, but they're
Yeah.
they're both in the league. And anytime you say that, we mentioned it in earlier. Basketball, you can turn around with just one player, right? It's not a whole team
Hmm.
mentality. So, yeah, disappointed. More disappointed by that every time I watched a basketball game this weekend, Brody would turn to me and go, "Tigers playing?" And I'm like,
No, buddy, you'll learn soon enough.
"No, dude, you're just basically rubbing salt in the wound. Thank you very much." So,
You should just plug on a replay.
oh,
Let's let
he's watched the Music City Bowl like 30 times because he wants to watch
perfect.
football. So,
Let's just watch the Kansas game this year. It'll be fantastic. So let's go to the other negative of the week. St. Louis City. They were in Philadelphia yesterday, or well, we'll call it Saturday. Once this finally posts, it won't be yesterday. They were back against their former coach, Bradley Carnell. They also played against Indiana Vasilev, who was traded to Philadelphia right before the season started. Um, the excitement of what they could be lasted a whole 8 minutes, and Philadelphia ran them into the ground. Got a pretty nice goal. I believe it was on a free kick, or no, it was on a throw in. I believe it was a header that they ended up knocking in. And really, they didn't show much life. The offensive attack was very minimal. I will still say the defensive attack still looked good. So like that, to me, that is still a positive out of that team. But the offensive attack was terrible. Philadelphia outshot St. Louis 18-5. Lunt made 8 saves. And honestly, one things that really kind of frustrated me more than anything just was kind of like the only way that I can describe it is lack of discipline.
mm-hmm.
You have a whole bunch of yellow cards. Durkin was on a yellow at like the 12th minute, something stupid like that. Like he played almost the entire 2/3 of the game on a yellow. And then Leuven, I question the second yellow as really being a foul. Now he did kick the ball away, but the ref's gotta keep it in his pocket and let's move on, have a conversation and go. But he got the second yellow late in the second half, got the red card, and then now we were playing with 10 men. Which honestly, once we had 10 men, it looked like we played a lot better. We had a lot more of a move forward approach. But that was a game that we probably should have won. I mean, yes, Philadelphia is a good club. I think that we probably should have beat them with our defense, but here we are with a loss to Philadelphia, and now we come home to play Austin, who is definitely a good team to play.
I sat down and watched this game, and I missed the goal Philadelphia scored. But I just felt like I was watching uninspired soccer.
It
Like
was bad.
this team lacks any kind of offensive strategy, and it just seems piss poor. And I don't know, maybe this is what we're gonna get with Melberg. Is that his name?
I just call him Olaf,
I know you
Snowman.
with the snowman. That like I don't see how anybody wants to watch this. They're a very boring team. Um, but I will say this: Leuven's got to keep his head. Like
Mhm.
you're probably wearing the captain's band. I will assume he was.
No, I
Um,
think Hartle was,
okay,
which
interesting.
was interesting. Yeah.
Um, like I don't know, man. Like Klaus to me has to play, and I get that he's on a cold streak, but like you got to get him in there. You got to get some kind of offensive spirit in there because if I'm going to sit back and watch a team basically park the bus and that's going to be their strategy for 90 minutes and maybe hope that they can get a draw or get a counterattack going the other way, I'm gonna check out.
Well, I think one thing that was really interesting, and we've talked about this a couple times, is that even the announcers didn't know how the lineup was stacked as far as what kind of rotation they were going to have.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was after halftime that they finally said, we're finally able to confirm that. I think we were playing it was like a 3-4-2-1 or something like that is what they were playing. And they're like, we're able to confirm that this is how the lineup was stacked up. And I'm like, maybe that's the problem. Is that, now when City releases their lineup an hour before the game, I believe it's in alphabetical order or numerical order, um, which is fine. I'm okay with it, but at least make it how the lineup is going to be so that we can, or send another one that says what the lineup's going to be. Even Sean, who is the one that comes up with our graphic every week of the lineup, is like, next week I'm just going to put them in a circle. Like, I don't care where they go. We're just going to loop their names around and see how it works.
I think he
But
did a pretty good job guessing.
yeah, I mean, but maybe that's part of it. Is maybe it is the identity. I think there's still a lot of positive that this team could do moving forward. I still think that our lineup is deep. When you have somebody like Klaus coming off the bench, or even Betcher coming off the bench, Celio was in the game for the last 15, 20 minutes of this week, and he looked pretty decent. But when you're trying to get control of the ball and you're trying to own possession, having Celio out there probably would have been a benefit a lot earlier in the game, possibly before Leuven even was off the field. So I don't know.
And
It's frustrating, but it's gonna happen.
it's one game, and again, like what I just said
Yeah,
about Mizzou is that I kind of need to just be patient. I just looked up the standings. I had no idea they're in fifth.
yeah.
So I mean, essentially securely in a playoff position if everything were to hold, right? Like I just saw a lot of uninspired soccer, and I'm worried about that. And the fact
Hmm.
that like the biggest story of the game was Leuven's red card and his behavior that led to it, because let's call a spade a spade. He earned that red card.
Hmm.
Soccer officials to me are a little jumpy sometimes, and then sometimes they're not. Like I don't know. Like maybe it's because I'm not as aware of who they are. Like you know who the umpires are who are probably going to throw somebody out, right?
Yeah.
Like you
You know
kind
who
of
the referees are
know,
gonna be. They're gonna have ticky tack calls. Yeah.
you can watch the NHL and you know if you got senior guys, they're going to let them play a little bit more, and we'll kind of get to that in a little bit. Um, but I don't know anything about these MLS officials, and it's a give and take. And the biggest story was Klaus and his behavior at the end of the game, yelling at Bradley Carnell, and we'll never know what happened there. But
Yeah.
you can't do that. You really can't. Like, I get it. Carnell's probably fired up because he was fired. Um, but man, I know there's a lot of speculating. We don't know actually what was said, what happened. It could have been something game related, but
Yeah.
come
It
on, guys, keep it
almost
easy.
was like one of those games where they're hanging a banner, or it's a massive tribute before the game, and all this pomp and circumstance, and then the team just comes out absolutely flat. It was almost the exact same thing. There was
Yeah,
such a buildup that they were going to play Carnell, and they're going to get it go against Vasilev, and they just came out and laid a turd.
yeah, absolutely.
But I do think that there is a fix to our offensive issues.
Josh Sargent, yes.
He's got red hair. He's from O'Fallon, and that would be Josh Sargent. It's going to cost a penny, quite a few of them actually. But I
Apparently,
think that would
Norwich already
drastically help.
rejected a $22 million offer for him, so yeah,
Yeah,
it's going to be a
because
lot.
he's going to go to another team in the Premier League, so it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah.
All right, so let's get out of the bad news and let's go into the good news. The St. Louis Blues, Kenny. The Blues are hot. As the locals say, the Blues are buzzing. Six straight wins, and they are on a roll.
Dude, it I haven't been able to watch a lot because of, just obviously we both have lives. All three of us have lives, but like I listened to the game today. I made sure I was keeping it. I've kept tabs on all these games. Man, what a streak they're on. So the Blues are now 12, 2, and 2 since returning from Four Nations break. They've only allowed 37 goals in 16 games. So you're talking about what, like 2.1, 2.2 goals a game? And they've
Mhm.
scored 63 goals. That's insane.
Yeah, just since March, the top three scorers, Holloway has 5 goals, 9 assists. Kyrou has 6 goals, 8 assists, 14 points. And they played 11 games in March. Actually, I think today was the 12th. And then Thomas has 2 goals and 10 assists. He had 3 more assists today. Kyrou had a hat trick this week. The Blues in the just this week, they won 4-1, 4-3, 4-1, and 4-1. The 4-3 game was against Vancouver, and that went to overtime. And that was
Yeah,
the kick in the nuts game while the Mizzou game was going on.
winning a big game against Vancouver because that extra point helps. Let me
Yeah.
look at the current NHL standings. Hold, please. Jump over to the Western Conference. So the Blues sit at 81 points. Come on, man. Wild card.
The Flames are at 77. But they've got 3 games in hand though. That's the downside. And then the Canucks are at 76 with 2 games in hand.
How do the Flames still have 3 games in hand? I would have thought they would have
I
caught.
have no idea. And I was trying to go like day by day to see when they make games up, and I can't find it on the schedule. I'm
I,
like, every day that they play, the Blues play too. I'm like, this doesn't make sense.
I mean, in all honesty, you could potentially see a scenario where the Blues jump the Wild, though, and
Yeah, the Wild have 85 points, but they have 2 games in hand, I think, and I think that would be, in my opinion. Well, I don't know. I mean, so what? Right now we would be facing the Jets, right? If we were the second wild card team.
I believe that
If we
is correct.
if we get into the first wild card, we would get, yeah, the Jets have 100 points and the Knights have 90.
Yeah.
So we would play, if we got to the second wild card, we would um, play the Knights. Personally, I would rather play the Jets.
You think?
I don't know why. Yeah, I think I'd rather play the Jets.
That's because Hellebuck sucks when it comes to the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean, the other part of it is the jealous side or the selfish side of me is that they're going to be on Central Time Zone, or at least a little closer to Central Time
Ooh,
Zone. So we're not going to get the 8:30, 9:30 starts.
you make a
Because
valid point.
if you go into the West into the Pacific bracket, now all of your games are going to be 9:30 away games. So or 8:30 home game starts.
That is a fair point. I like what you're saying there. Um, I will also mention, I got to say, what the Blues did for Pat Maroon yesterday or
Was
Saturday,
awesome.
whenever you watch this, was awesome. I don't know how many people are aware. Pat Maroon basically announced to Panger that this was his last ride. He was going to retire. Um, and I don't know if that got to the Blues. I don't know if they were planning anything or they kind of maybe knew it was coming. They were just waiting for him to say something. They had a nice video package for him. Um, and then they called him out as the number one star. And I thought that was pretty cool.
I thought that was awesome. Yeah, and I think it's cool because he's a massive part of the Blues winning a Stanley Cup. I mean, he is legitimately one of the main reasons that we did it, just because of the Game 7 winner. So he's a massive part of St. Louis history. He always will be. A very short time in St. Louis. It was only 2 years, right, or a year and
Yep.
a half at the
Yep.
most. So a short time, he's won 3 cups. I will never forget the quote of him when he was with the Lightning, chirping Marchand and saying, "How many cups do you got?" And he's like, "Well, I got one. I got 3,"
Yeah, yeah,
which is always great. The video of him during the parade was absolutely fantastic. I mean, the dude is St. Louis through and through, and it sucks to see him in a Blackhawks jersey. I think Schenner
hmm
said it at the end of the game on Saturday night. He was like, "Man, I love Pat to death, but it sucks that he's wearing that jersey. It'd be
yep,
so much better if he was in a blue note." But it's cool. The dude, I didn't realize he's played over 800 games, which is incredible, especially for a guy with his skill set. Like he doesn't have this like incredible goal scoring, or he's not the fastest player on the ice or anything like that. But the dude works his ass off, so it was good to see. So the Blues got what probably handful, 10 games, let's call it, two
yep,
handfuls of games
yep.
left. They play Nashville, Colorado twice in that span. We got Pittsburgh and Detroit coming up, Seattle and Utah to wrap it up. Where do you think this team gets to?
Let's see here. 10 more games. The streak they're on. I mean, I foresee that. Hold on. Let's see. How many points are they sitting at? They're at 81. I mean, I see a
81.
realistic shot at 92 to 93 points. I mean, that would be six or seven in the last 10. I think as long as you don't go and do something stupid and get, somebody injured against Nashville on Thursday because you're going to
Yeah,
play them again, and we can talk about today's
yeah,
game here in a minute. I, I mean, you're probably losing to Colorado on Saturday, but with the way they've been scoring, man, I just don't know. Like anything can happen. Montreal's fighting for a playoff spot. They're currently seated as the number 2 wild card in the East. But man, this is what's always funny is you look at like the point disparity, the differences. Like Florida's only got 89 points and they're winning the Atlantic Division right now. Like theoretically,
hmm
if the Blues were in that division, they would be, you know, they'd be right
it's
on their heels.
yeah. We'd be catching third place, that's for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the Blues outlook is positive. You and I were talking about it earlier. Like, so let's just rip the band-aid off of it. They called up Delabor Dvorsky,
Dalibor, you'll get there.
Dalibor. Um,
I can do hockey names. I can't do baseball names.
I loved when we drafted him. Somebody tweeted out Dvorsky is what hockey bros say their parents go through when they're 16.
That's a great one. Great
Um,
one.
yeah, man, you just added a skill position to the hottest team in the league right now. Like
hmm
this could be a really good run. Like I'm not saying like Stanley Cup deep, but you know, before the Four Nations, you were sitting and you're going, do we tank and get a top 5 pick? Like because that's where they were
Right.
at,
Yeah.
and you've made up 26 points of ground. Like that's insane.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting how these last 10 play out because they can't let off. That's the interesting part. Like they're going to have to stay hot and they're hot at the right time too, which makes a big difference. And you have teams that you should win against. You have Montreal, the Predators again on Tuesday, which after playing today, that game is going to be an absolute just hammer fest, I believe. Like it's going to be everybody's going to be trying to make the hardest hit they possibly can.
Oh yeah.
They are going to definitely have to make sure they stay within their game and not do anything stupid.
And the
But they've got
NHL's
Montreal.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the
No,
NHL
you're
needs
good.
to make sure they got a really good officiating crew
Yeah.
because it sounds like those boys couldn't handle their shit tonight. And
No, those guys, those were the two of the probably worst officials that I have seen play an NHL game this year. Now, granted, I just got the Prime package to be able to watch FanDuel Sports, so that's part of it. But man, those guys, they were brutal. They missed some calls. They made up some calls. They were, and when the broadcast is openly acknowledging that there are missed calls, then you have issues. I don't care if it's home broadcast or not; it's still messed up. But the Blues, they still have Pittsburgh, they still have Detroit, they have Colorado, which we generally play Colorado pretty tough. Like
mhm.
I agree. I think at 90, 92, I wouldn't say that 94 to 95 is totally out of the question. Um, it'll be interesting to see. And yes, bringing up Dvorsky adds a whole other wrinkle to this line combination. Sundquist sat today. Booch was out with an illness, which I found was weird. They just said it was day to day. They sat Letty today. They let Tyler Tucker play. So they're able to get their depth going, and they have the cap space to be able to add guys to the roster and not have to really worry about having cap issues.
Mm-hmm.
But like the issue that I texted you, or the uh, let's call it pie in the sky theory, that potentially, and this would definitely be next year. This would be this year if everything goes according to plan. The top three lines would be Neighbors, Thomas, Bolduc. That's a solid line.
Yes.
Kyrou, Shen, and Holloway. That's a solid line. Then you have Buchnevich, Dvorsky, and this guy named Jimmy Snuggerud that is getting so much attention from everybody. Spittin' Chicklets has had him all over his stuff this week. The dude's a finalist for the Hobie Baker. He's
Mm-hmm.
lighting it up at Minnesota. And if they go to the NCAA championship, I'm pretty sure the second to last game of the season would be when he would be eligible to come into the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd have 2 games in the NHL before that's a possibility. Now, I don't necessarily think that they put him in a roster and say, cool, you're going to play in the playoffs right away. But that's an option. What if they get eliminated early and they get 3 or 4 games under the belt? They have those three lines rolling. And then you have Foxa, Toropchenko, and Walker as your fourth line. Oh my God. That's insane.
Yeah, that's a that the depth of that team is potentially, I mean, insane. And like the only thing I disagree with your three lines is I would probably let Dvorsky play center between
Yeah,
Buchnevich and Snuggerud. Now
it's not a
Buchnevich is probably starting to slow down, but he grinds it out on the wing, and I don't know if I
hmm
necessarily trust a 19, 20 year old to be that hardworking on the wing, but man, that's a lot of talent, and this is what
Yeah.
this organization has been searching for, right? Like we talked about it last week. They're kind of in this weird like, are we the grinded out, go get you a low scoring game? We're gonna win 2-1. And of course, I say that last Sunday, and all they've done is put up
And
goals
now they're
this week.
averaging 4 goals a game.
Like, so I mean, I'm okay with him scoring 3 or 4 goals a game, and I just need Benner to keep out three, right? Like,
hmm
don't make it four. That's all we
Yeah.
need. So, one
Yeah.
cool thing I thought with Dvorsky, and final thing is his dad was visiting him in Springfield, had been with him for 2 weeks, and they got the call on Saturday that he was playing, so his dad was able to change his flight and come with him to St. Louis and see his NHL debut.
Yeah, you got to think that the organization did that on purpose when they found out he was coming in. Like it's a totally random time to call him up. Like there
It
is
does
no
seem random,
injury.
does it not? Does it not?
Yeah, there's no injury. There's no like really like need for him to be up. He's had a great year in the AHL. It was his time, and I think it's a great fit. It'll definitely be interesting to see if they call up Snuggerud as well, or at least get him signed to the contractor and put him in the AHL, or if he comes and plays. But I think he should probably play in the NHL day one.
But this is what you got a top 10 draft pick for the first time in what felt like 20 years.
Petrangelo, yeah, it was Petrangelo in '08, right?
I think so. I'm racking my
Yeah.
brain right now, and I think Pietrangelo at number 4 was the last time you were in that lottery. And
hmm
this is what you want. You want to hit that lottery and have somebody come in and play. I don't need him to be Celebrini, but I need him to be able to play, and I need him to be a
Yeah,
top
you need
six
him to be a
forward.
top nine.
Yeah,
Yeah, or top six would be great. Top nine is even better. If you can draft a guy in the top 10 and in a year in he's a top nine forward for you, that's fantastic. Like that
yeah.
is
I
what
mean,
you want.
they put him on the power play, did they not? That goal
hmm
they scored where they credited him with the assist and took it away, it was on a power play. So, I mean,
Yeah,
kudos to Montgomery too for getting him out there. Like, hey, this is where the kid thrives. Let's go.
and the interesting part late in the game, who got the 5 minute Oh, Bolduc got the stupidest 5 minute misconduct for cross checking. Oh my God! And this is the whole officiating issue. Gets a 5 minute misconduct. They put Dvorsky in the box because Bolduc also got a game misconduct for it, or
Hmm.
5 minute major and a game misconduct for cross checking, which is stupid. But they put Dvorsky in the box, which at first I was like, that's a very interesting move because why are you putting him in the box with 8 minutes left and we're up two? Now he probably wasn't going to play on the penalty kill, which kind of makes sense. But as soon as he came out of the box, he came out like a bat out of hell and put some pressure on the puck, and then that led to the end. Or obviously, it was the end of the penalty, and that allowed them to actually get the puck back, and it would have gave them an opportunity to score too because they had the empty net. So it was kind of like thinking 3 steps ahead on that one.
There is some coach strategy there, and I've seen coaches
Hmm.
do that before. You're like, why are they putting him in the box? It makes sense. Your guys are tired, and you get a lightning bolt that comes out who can hold on to the puck. So he's thinking offensive
Yeah,
rush and allows your guys to change. So there is some strategy built into that. Um, but I thought it was good that they got him involved in the game. I don't know what his exact minutes are because, like I said, I've had March Madness
yeah,
on
it did.
all day. But
Yeah, I didn't look at his minutes, but yeah, I know he played well, so that's all that really matters to start. So let's go to the last thing as far as St. Louis sports this week. The Cardinals, the opening day is on Thursday. They start out at home against Minnesota. Not a lot to really talk about. The biggest things being the opening day roster. That was going to be the question that everybody really wanted to have. And really, it wasn't necessarily going to be like, who do we get? Who's going to be the big name? It was going to be
mhm.
who was going to be the one that was going to be either left off or should have been added but wasn't added or was added, whatever, however you want to look at it. So the big ones for me, the Cardinals came out that Michael Ciani is going to be used as the fourth outfielder. He's a defensive replacement, which means that Victor Scott won the starting center fielder spot. Well deserved. The dude hit like 380 during the spring training. I think that it was a perfect spot for him. They don't have a backup shortstop as of right now, which is okay. I'm not really hating that. They can move guys around and no big deal. Matthew Liberatore, he's in the rotation. He's the youngest, probably by like half of everybody else. So you have Sonny Gray, Eric Fetty, Miles Michaelis, Matthew Liberatore will be your five, and who's the fifth or fourth guy? I don't even know. At this point, it
Well, they
doesn't matter.
said
Uh,
Matz is starting in the bullpen, correct?
Mats is in the bullpen. Yep. Michael McGreevy and Jose Fermin were optioned to Memphis. I am not thrilled about McGreevy going to Memphis. I think McGreevy should have been a starter. Um, and then you have Burleson and everybody for everybody that was going to be an infielder got squeezed for guys that can bat. So it was good to see that they could bring in power and contact instead of defensive replacements for the infield because they really do with Gorman, Donovan, and Wynn. You have your three guys to play up the middle and a
Yeah.
third baseman. So it'll be interesting. I think the over under right now is 80.5, and I think that that is the number. I think this team, like, and we talked about this in a text thread earlier this week. This team would not shock me if they won 90 games. And I think that if they won 90 games, it is the same possibility as if they lose 90 games, which means that their number is 80. So I, I don't see them winning 90 games. I don't see them losing 90 games. You have big questions in what Nolan Arenado is going to get you.
Hmm.
You have big questions on the return that Ryan Helsley is going to get you. Honestly, you try to not burn his innings out. I would trade Helsley at the trade deadline no matter what. The return on it is insane. I believe it was BK and Ferrario on 101 that were talking about the return that the Royals got for Aroldis Chapman. They got their number one starter in Carl Reagans in the trade for Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah.
So if Ryan Helsley can be Ryan Helsley of old and he's healthy at the trade deadline, you trade him and you go get a young starting pitcher that can be your next number one.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I agree with the. I think the Ciani one is kind of weird. Like, he seems like he's one of the boys. Like, I mean, I know there were people ready to riot. Like, everybody thought Victor Scott was going to Memphis, but you can't keep that kid in Memphis batting
No.
360 or whatever he was. And I know it's just spring training, but still, I think he's your everyday center fielder. I'm not thrilled with not having the additional infield, like the middle infielder. But I mean, when you look at Gorman and Wynn and Donovan, like you mentioned, if one of them goes down, you at least got Arenado still at third. I think that's a big question mark because, I mean, I would assume they're still going to bat him third in the lineup, right?
Yeah, most likely. Well, He'll either be third or fourth, and Contreras will be the opposite.
I think you have to. If I'm looking, so I'm looking at the opening day roster. Let's just assume. Okay, so you're gonna assume Contreras is the DH, or is he playing first? Has that been officially announced?
He'll be first. Yeah, he'll be
Okay,
first base.
so I'm going. Scott's my leadoff hitter. Wins my 2. I'm going Contreras 3, Arenado, Gorman. No. Walker Gordman. That puts Gordman at 5 or 6. So what do you got? Newt Bar. Who am I forgetting? Donovan.
I mean,
Yeah.
Donovan.
Oh,
Yeah.
and a DH who's probably going to be Luke and Baker. So I mean, theoretically, he slots anywhere from 3 to 7. So
I mean, if I'm doing it, Mason wins my leadoff hitter playing shortstop. Left field is probably going to be left field. If it's me, I'm putting Burleson, and I would let Burleson bat second, and then I'd have Contreras be my DH, third, Nato third base, third or fourth, Donovan at second, playing hitting fifth. God, I don't
no,
know who
you're
I'd put at
forgetting
first
Jordan
base.
Walker.
I have got yeah, Jordan Walker. I put seven.
Really?
Yeah, because I like the mentality of you flip the lineup over. So
Mm.
that's I would put eight. My nine hitter would be my Victor Scott, and then you have Scott win Burleson Contreras as
So
your like
what?
next comeback around.
Yeah.
You only lead off one time. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, I get that. I do get that. And that's why I'm like, screw it. Just load the top of the lineup. Who cares? Like, could you imagine Contreras hitting doubles with Wynn and Scott in
Hmm.
front of him? Like, the RBIs
Yeah,
are going to be insane. And in all honesty, if that is how they go, if they would go Wynn, a combination of Wynn and Scott 1-2, you almost have to put Arenado 3. I feel like he's the
yeah,
more contact driven hitter. Um,
yes,
but we also don't know how Contreras is going to perform being a first baseman. He might, because of what the body goes through when you're catching, like, he
hmm
might be a better hitter, which is pretty impressive because he was our best hitter last year. So,
yeah. But then the only problem is now you have massive questions at catcher. They've got a kid that is probably 2 years
actually, we were
away.
forgetting for Herrera. Like,
Yep.
yeah, we
And
got to have a
you have
catcher.
Herrera that is not a catcher, but he can hit. And then you have Pedro Pajes that is a catcher, but he can't hit. So you have massive questions until I believe the guy's last name is Connor.
Hmm.
Until he can come up because he can hit and he is a catcher, but I'm pretty sure he's starting the year in AAA, and I think they'll keep him there all year. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, 80 wins is probably about right. It it's the NL Central, but I think the Reds are going to have a good year. They have Terry Francona. The Pirates are trending upwards. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. Starting Thursday, and then we'll start doing a weekly report on the Cardinals, and they'll take the sadness of what Mizzou and just kind of like plug and play. It'll be kind of nice.
82 and 82.
So there you go. Yeah. The last thing for us today is the NCAA Tournament March Madness going on. We've got 2 games left to verify the Sweet 16. Currently, Arizona's up 54 to, it looked like they just went off commercial, so I don't know. 54 to 43 over whoever they're playing. And then Michigan State just beat New Mexico 71-63. So Michigan State goes in. Um, so far for our Gateway podcast, as a podcast, and the way we did it was 2 out of 3 picks meant that team was going to win. As we sit right now, our podcast is third in our bracket with 56% of the picks correct. That's terrible, but leading the way, 90 is that right? 95%. That seems crazy.
I think
That's
that dude's
not
only
right.
missed one.
Yeah, he's killing it right now. 509 Boss Man, doing a great job of picking. He is running away with this thing. Some random ESPN picker is on there. I am dead last except for the 2 people that have zeros, and Sean is tied with me for there. So it's going well. What has been the most surprising thing for you, Kenny?
Clemson losing,
Yeah.
I think was a big one. Um, I thought about it for a split second. I was like, oh, maybe McNeese will be, somebody that's going to, throw a wrench into it. But I was like, man, people got Clemson going to their Final Four. Like, I think that's a good
Hmm.
one. I think that's the one that shocked me the most.
Mine, I've
Arkansas
two.
beating St. John's
Yep.
is huge. Like, so, what are your two?
That was my number. That was my number one is Arkansas beating St. John's, and not just beating St. John's, even though it was a 9 point game. They pretty much controlled that game from start to finish, and they beat Kansas too. So
Yeah.
you shouldn't be shocked. We mentioned, Coach Cal and him going to Arkansas, and Coach Cal doing Coach Cal things. I'm not shocked by that in any way, shape, or form. I'm excited to see that he did beat Bill Self and Rick Pitino.
Hmm.
The Devil beats two other Devils. You can never go wrong there. The other one that I have, and we were talking about this before we came on today, Ole Miss. Mizzou beat Ole Miss, and
Yep.
I didn't see Ole Miss as being that great of a team. I had them losing to North Carolina. I definitely did not see them getting into the Sweet 16, but they beat North Carolina by 7. They just beat Iowa State earlier today by 13, it looks like. I don't do math live on the air, so there's definitely a chance that that could be wrong. But now they face Michigan State and Tom Izzo. And so I think that's a very interesting one. But really, there's not a massive one. The Midwest is chalk, 1, 2, 3, and 4 all advanced.
Hmm.
The West is chalk except for Arkansas. Um, I would probably consider the South to be chalk except for Ole Miss. Michigan and A&M, that was a relatively close game until late, and then Michigan pulled away. And then Arizona is currently beating Oregon by 9. If that does go final and Arizona wins, then other than BYU, which I guess that in reality would be kind of an upset, that division would be, or that side of the bracket would be chalk as well. So not a lot of upsets as far as the Sweet 16. Now, like you said, you did have McNeese. You had who was the other big one that went in and won? It was New Mexico. New Mexico beat Marquette. Not a lot of
Hmm.
people had that one going on. Um, it was it's pretty much a straightforward bracket, which is interesting. But if you just pick the top seed, you probably had a pretty good bracket going.
Yeah, and I mean the big news coming out of the tournament really has been what Texas did. Ronnie Terry is out,
Mhm.
because it hasn't been exciting. Like I mentioned, like there's been no madness. Somebody tweeted that out earlier
No.
too, and like Duke
Hmm.
sleptwalk to the elite or Sweet 16. Excuse me. I don't think there's anything that really like shocks me, with the exception of
No, and I mean,
Mizzou loss. But
yeah, and really Florida and Houston were the two closest number one seeds in the second round.
hmm.
Florida won by 2 and Houston won by 5. But even then, they're doing what they should have done. UConn is a tough out at an 8 seed, so I don't care what it is. That's a good squad, a 3 time national championship, I believe. So, or back to back to back national champions. So, yeah, it hasn't been madness, but that's kind of nice to see.
My final point would be on this is obviously we're going to start getting better games, but I have now entered into one of our buddies' squares picks for the last 2 years, and I think I've gotten the worst combination of numbers in
0-0.
dude, I had it last year. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. 0-0 is not as uncommon as the 0-4 I got, which is
Ooh, that's a
less
rough one too.
has happened in less than 1% of all the games, and 1 in
Hmm.
5, which is like teetering at 1%. I was just like, come on, man. So
That's terrible. All right, let's wrap this up. Do you want to hit socials for this week?
yes, we are on YouTube. You can find us at the Gateway Tailgate Podcast. We are on TikTok. I believe it's Gateway Tailgate, but it gave me some random username. I'll verify that here soon. Twitter, we are at Gateway Tailgate, and Adam still has our Instagram locked out. So,
Yep, that's my fault on that one. Big week for St. Louis sports. Really just the Blues. The Blues play at home against Montreal on Tuesday. They go to Nashville on Thursday and then to Colorado on Saturday. So you expect them to get hopefully 4 points. I would take 3. If they get 6, even better. St. Louis City plays at home against Austin on Sunday. That's a Sunday matinee. I believe it kicks off at 1:30. And then we talked about the Cardinals real quick. They start their season on Thursday with opening day against Minnesota. They have a Thursday, Saturday, Sunday series, and then we'll start hitting them next week. So stay tuned for next week. We'll get our shorts and our podcast up this week. We'll get our socials back going, and continue back on. So see you guys later.
Adios.